Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to Talks with Brittany Talk Show. I am your favorite host, Brittany Justice. Tonight I have with me a very special guest, Miss Essence Nicholson. How are you this night?
Good. How are you?
I just got back in town, so I'm a little tired, but I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad that you're able to join me tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I know I've already congratulated you for this show, but I do sincerely. I'm so proud of you for creating this show, and I know you're going to do great things with it. And I'm looking forward to where it goes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you
happy
so
for
much.
you.
Thank you. For you guys that do not know, Essence is actually my boss. Essence is the director of accounting. We won't say where, but it is at a law firm. Essence has been the director of accounting now for 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years now, yes. I have been working under her for 2 years. Yeah, so this is my boss, you guys.
Even though I don't like that term, but we're going to stick with it. I'm just like supervisor, manager, but hey.
That's what she is, so you have to respect the title. Tonight we're going to give you guys just a little intel on the daily life of balancing life, mom, work, school, what it's like to be African American in the corporate world. We're going to give you all the details, the tea. Tonight is the night, okay?
Heavy on the tea.
Heavy on the tea. Okay, tonight is the night. But before we get started, I want to give you guys a little background on Essence. Essence has earned her bachelor's in psychology and criminal justice at ECU, East Carolina University, in 2017. She is currently expecting her master's degree in accounting at East Carolina University. She will be done December of 2024 this year. Yes. I said she was the director of accounting for 2 years now. She is an upcoming certified public accountant, CPA.
Speaking into existence.
Yes. We are waiting for the response to come back. So, and she also participates as the Association of Legal Administrators. So you have a pretty good list of accolades behind your name.
You try.
You do it all. How does that feel?
I don't know. I feel a lot of pressure at times being so young. Like we're both still in our 20s. Some would say we're still trying to figure out things. A lot of people really don't find their career choice until later 30s, sometimes 40s, and just having that pressure of still being in my 20s, being the oldest child, being a fiance, having kids now. Sometimes it comes with a lot of pressure, but I just try to stick through. I think my inner Leo brings that out of me. Like, I'm always trying to go hard, go for the next thing, trying to be better than what I was before, and better than the previous generation did.
Right.
I definitely want to make my mom proud, and I think I've done that thus far.
Right.
But those who know me, like I'm always trying to do more and take on more, even if I'm losing sleep over it, so that future generations don't have to work as hard or struggle. So I'm just trying to ensure that and instill that hard work in my kids too.
Right.
So I would say that keeps me pushing on a day-to-day.
Right. So you kind of just touched base on my first question. What is your mindset to achieve your goals in life? So you basically go off your family, your kids, and just trying to be better than what you were.
Yeah, I would say all that included, and I would say as of recent, one of my main motivations in going back to school, going back to ECU to get my major and get my degree in accounting, my master's in accounting, was the death of my brother. And I felt like I needed to pour my energy into something conductive, for lack of better terms, to just occupy my time. Because when you're going through that dark space, you feel as though you don't want to lose yourself, you don't want to completely lose your mind or end up in a psych ward, because at that point you're like so depressed you don't know your left from your right.
Right.
And I was just thinking, hey, how could I occupy my time so that I can pour into myself and also make my brother proud? So I was just thinking back one day at work and like, well, let me go to Wake Tech. And I was thinking, let me just go get my bookkeeping certification. And that kind of transformed into me taking that a step further and saying, hey, maybe that's not enough. Maybe I want more for myself.
Right.
And more for my family, more for my kids, work my way up in the company. So then after getting my prerequisites, I looked online at ECU to see what prerequisites were necessary to apply for my master's at ECU. And it was like 4 or 5 classes that I needed. And Weight Tech offered all of those. I called ECU, made sure that they accepted those Weight Tech credits. And I was like, oh, I think this is a sign. Let me go ahead and apply. Applied. It happened so quickly. After I took those first few classes at Weight Tech, I went ahead and applied at ECU. And then I got that acceptance letter. And I was like, holy crap, I think I can do this. Not really, in that moment, you're like, hey, let me just try it.
Right.
You're not really thinking, hey, you really want to follow through with it.
Right.
And then once I got that acceptance letter, I was like, this is a sign for me to just go hard.
Yeah.
And just put all my energy into this, into something positive.
Right.
So I started going to ECU, and the rest is history. And it happened in like 2 years. And now we're here.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to actually go back because you started off getting your bachelor's in psychology and criminal justice.
Yeah.
How did you switch over from criminal justice into psychology?
Girl, I just can't even talk about it. I don't know. Okay, so I was so optimistic going into the ECU, and I graduated when I was like 17 from high school.
Mm-hmm.
No one knows what they want to do for certain. Sure. Like, you're still a kid. You're still trying to find that self-identity.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, the sky's the limit. Let me go in. Let me do a little pre-med. A little pre-med number for the girls. So I went in doing a little pre-med, doing a little biology, because I had in mind, I'm going to doctor, want to be a doctor. I'm going to, get my PhD. I took biology. Then I took that chemistry class, and it was over.
It was over.
It was over. I don't know who out there really mastered chemistry in high school, but in my high school,
you gotta be a strong person.
Yeah, and we were like a bad set of kids, excluding myself. But we had like some substitute teachers for chemistry. They made some like run off and quit a few times. So
what school was this?
This was Hillside.
Oh.
So the foundation wasn't laid because we were teaching ourselves chemistry. So when I got to ECU, in that class, it's like 250 students.
Wow.
A lot of pressure.
Wow.
A lot of pressure. So I'm like, and there was a language barrier between my professor, he was Asian, and I was like, this isn't going to work.
Wow.
So
it was in that very moment.
In that moment, I said, this isn't going to work. I didn't even understand the first few chapters.
Wow.
So I was like, this is a red flag. Let's navigate this somewhere else. so I met with my advisor. I'm like, this is not for me.
Okay.
So then I was like, you know what? I know how to read people. I like how the mind works. Let me change it to psychology. And I've also always been fascinated with criminal justice and forensic science. Mm-hmm. So I was like, let me tie in some forensic science in there. But forensic science wasn't a major, so I just replaced it with criminal justice.
Okay.
And my goal was to be a forensic psychologist. Wow. So really read the mind. Try to examine people.
So you wanted to be the person that figured out what was going through the mind of a serial killer.
Yeah. Oh, that's like a dream job.
Is it?
Like trying to figure out why someone's crazy? Yeah. So that was what I was going for. And even before that, when I was, when biology was my major, my thought process was being a medical examiner. Examining the bodies of the dead. You're not feeling that? It was really my calling back then. I was like, I love, watching Law and Order. Are we going to use the word
calling?
That was my calling.
Oh my.
Yeah. I love Law and Order. I was like, I think I could do this. And my turning point.
Everybody loves Law and Order, but I don't think no one thinks to let me go out here and.
I don't know. That's how I felt in the moment. And then we had like this, the blood drive trucks. We had that on campus one day. So I'm like walking down the hill from my dorm, walking to give blood. I saw just a little tube of blood and started throwing up. It was over. I threw up in the middle of campus. And I said, no, this is not for me.
So you actually couldn't be a medical examiner.
No. Oh, like I had scheduled to actually be a part of one, like go to an autopsy.
Oh wow!
Because we had a sign up on campus for you to like go off site, I think to the local hospital in Greenville. And I was like, you know, after that bad blood experience, I said, I'm not doing that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, but you finished it out. And
after I changed my major.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, criminal justice and psychology was for me.
Okay.
At that moment. But I didn't really think about when I transferred over to psychology and criminal justice, like the post schooling that was necessary to actually do something with a job like that.
Right.
Like you need to go get your master's, you need to get your PhD in it possibly to actually do something with it. Right. And at that point, I was like, this isn't really going to work, especially my junior year of college. I got pregnant with my first daughter, Emerald. Oh, wow. And during that time, I was like, oh, let me think of something more realistic. And I was also doing work study on campus. I was an office assistant, and even post-graduation, because I had to provide for my daughter. My first job position was a bookkeeper at Home Depot. And that kind of like started, that was a stepping stone for me in this career path because it just made sense to me. I've always liked math. I've always liked the office environment because I'm not really a physical labor girl.
As we can tell, you look good. You look great.
But yeah, that was just a stepping stone for it, and I just took off from there. After Home Depot, I landed another office job. And after that, I did another office job. So it just made sense. Right. All involving like the field of accounting.
Wow. So you got your bachelor's in psychology and criminal justice, but your first job you landed as a bookkeeper at Home Depot.
It's crazy.
That is, God works in mysterious ways.
And I've also learned during that time that even applying for like first roles like that, where it doesn't really require much experience, like your degree, at least your bachelor's, is just telling your employer that you're teachable, that you can learn on the job. It doesn't necessarily matter like what it's in, but the fact that you have it, because any of us that have gone to get our 4-year degree, our bachelor's degree, like your first 2 to 3 years are just those primary courses, those foundational courses. What are you going to take? Your basic mathematics, your basic writing and English courses, and then you might throw some gym classes in there. It's like high school all over again, but on another tier. You don't fall into or start taking those major courses that are part of your major for you to graduate, saying that hey, you majored in psychology until your junior and senior years. Wow. Yeah, so it's like, hey, you got that degree on your paper, on your resume, hey, you can learn. You're teachable. You know how to follow instructions.
That's good because there's so many people that do go off to college and get degrees and then graduate and do not work in the field.
Yeah.
They end up, you may see somebody got a degree in business administration, but they're working in Home Depot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, that's a good point that you made there. I like that.
Yeah.
So, how has failing helped you on your journey?
Failures. I feel like I hate failing. I try to stay far away from it as possible, but the way life goes, they say if you want to make plans if you want to make God laugh, you know, tell him your plans. Tell me your plans. And it's like, oh, that's a good point. Because whenever I try to rear my own path, make my own decisions, try to tell God my next plans, absolutely, like no, that's not the path that I have laid out for you. Like even with college, undergrad, I was like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I had it planned out. Undergrad, you know, I love school.
Yeah.
Post school, I'm going to get my master's. I'm going to get my PhD, and I'm going to do it all over again in another field because I just love school. I just love learning. Like my mother-in-law always said, you will be a professional student. And if I didn't have kids, I would very well be a professional student because I just love school. Wow. But in terms of failing, I so many job applications, even after like Home Depot and the job after Home Depot, because of that whole COVID experience and being laid off. I was a victim of being laid off. Finding a job after COVID was so depressing, and I don't think people talk about that enough.
Right.
It was so time consuming. I know I was one of those who was influenced by, I would say, because of our local mindset that Duke University or Duke Hospital is like the place to be.
Let's talk about
So, you know, that demon.
Oh, yes.
That demon of thinking that and thinking
no
that's
offense. If you work for Duke,
no offense,
No
but
offense.
we have to have set higher expectations
yes,
for the Black community.
yes,
But falling victim to that and having that way of thinking during COVID or after COVID, not having a job, I can go into my Duke Careers account and I probably filled out 300 applications.
Wow.
And only landed, out of all those applications, maybe only landed 2 virtual interviews.
Wow.
And I always say, if I wanted to be a housekeeper, I would have no issues. But because, hey, I'm speaking of real. Speak on it. If I wanted to be a housekeeper, I would have no issues. But because I wanted to be in these leadership roles or in these higher positions, it was like navigating high waters. I swear, trying to just land executive assistant jobs there are like so hard to get. And I would always think like, well, what is the issue with me? Like I had to self-reflect and think about, you know, why am I not landing these roles? Like it kind of makes your self-esteem lower a little bit because you're thinking, why am I not good enough for these roles?
Right.
And then something just dawned on me after filling out 301 applications that, hey, this is not for me. This is clearly not for you, and God has something else in store for you that's actually greater. So I would go on Indeed and LinkedIn and just apply. And even if it was like an office assistant job, even if it was like a basic bookkeeper job, no matter where it was, I would still apply. I remember I applied and interviewed at a nonprofit. I didn't care. I was like anti-Duke at that time.
Right.
Anything that wasn't Duke was for me.
Amen.
And then it was crazy because with the job I currently have, now that I've been there almost 4 years, when I applied there, it was through Indeed. And when the manager responded to me, it wasn't even in my inbox. I found the response in my spam folder. And I seldomly check my spam, just like any other person. How often do you check your spam folder? Like never. And I feel like that was just God telling me to check it that day.
Yeah.
And that was the response. And I went into that interview, and they called me back, and I had a job. And I was like, oh my God.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That is
I was so excited. I just knew that was a sign from God.
Yeah.
And I've just worked my way up by the grace of God. And this, I can say this is the best place I've ever worked.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. Definitely agreed. So, was entering the corporate world intimidating to you?
I felt like I was nervous about it.
Mm-hmm.
Even landing my first role at Home Depot, even though it was a depressing job. I was like, look, Home Depot back office is not where to be.
Really?
What
was your position at Home Depot?
I was a bookkeeper, but people don't know like that part of the store is all the way towards the back. And it's locked off. It's like a room inside of a room inside of a room. It's like a jail cell because they have to protect their money. They have to protect their cash, and you're the only person back there. You never have contact with people. You're just back there working by yourself all day.
Wow.
And that's where I fell in love with Judge Mathis.
So you would be back
Sidebar.
So you would be back there watching Judge Mathis counting these people's money.
Well, the people don't know. I'm a Judge Mathis girl. I'm a fan. I may just randomly sue someone just to see him. But look.
So why you didn't go to school to be
I just love Judge Mathis like a good old crackhead slur.
Oh, okay.
Once or twice. Does it for me. This is Judge Mathis. I don't make the rules.
Oh,
this is what he says, not my words.
Never watched Judge
Oh, okay. But I feel like that kind of entertainment kept me going back there. But again, what was the question? Because I feel like I read off.
Was entering the corporate world was it intimidating to you? How did you feel?
Not at Home Depot, but because that job was part-time, but when I found a full-time job after Home Depot, which I believe that position was like administrative assistant, office assistant. It was at an engineering company and in the area. That company was intimidating. That's when I felt the most intimidated I've ever felt. Mainly because that was my first experience to working with older white people.
Okay.
And it was a different dynamic for me, even though high school, all black, majority black. College, majority white, even though I had that experience in college at ECU, since it's predominantly white. I feel like working at that company was like a culture shock for me. Because older white people sometimes function a bit differently than younger white people. Like, they may be set in their ways, or they may say things that offend you. I've had that experience also where my manager made a comment about my hair.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I felt super offended. And when you're not used to that, you don't know how to approach it.
Right.
It's like, do we approach it like,
right,
like we should approach it?
Right, like
any
other time.
Any other time when you want to say a few words.
Right.
But now you're in corporate America, and it's like, how do you navigate that? Do you report that person to HR? What if HR isn't really HR? Like, we don't have those discussions either.
Yeah, that is true.
So even the owner of that company, I would say, it was a strange experience to me.
Wow.
Because he had more of like a dismissive personality. But that was definitely intimidating to me. And also, that was my first time second guessing myself a lot.
Wow.
Because he was set in his ways. He didn't allow me nor my other coworkers to really do things on our own or have any suggestions as to how processes could become more effective. This company was established in the 70s, and it was functioning as if it is 70s. It was pretty bad. I felt like I was in some type of time lapse and didn't know how to escape.
Right.
So, that was my screwed up experience, and that actually carried me forward to even not this role necessarily, but this company, because this is a different dynamic.
Right.
And it's a great experience, but I hate that I had that experience prior to experiencing this one, because I came into this role second guessing myself and not being as confident as I was before in my work product. And that can affect you on a day-to-day.
Yeah.
You have to really come out of that, and you also, sometimes you have to have someone in the background pouring into you.
That is true.
To, I guess, to reverse that psychological dysfunction of what had occurred to you in the past. But through that, I think this job has actually poured more confidence into me and definitely reversed my prior experience with my past employer.
Okay, I like that. So, being an accountant, does it mean you are a master of finances and you have all your ducks in a row outside of work life? In your personal life, is your finances?
Oh, girl, we're going through a recession. The question is,
the people want to know, because growing up for me, you hired me. I am an accounting assistant / accounts payable specialist now. So growing up for me, when I heard the word accounting, I always thought, strict money, like numbers, like for one, I definitely thought going into the role, I could not do this. Like, I could not do this. I'm broke as it is.
Yeah.
I can't even manage my own money. What do you expect me to do with these folks' money? So, the role definitely scared me. So, as an accountant, is it normal or should they have their own personal finances in a row?
I would say absolutely. That
If we're being honest, you
have
should.
their finances in a row, but I can only speak to me. I can manage the money that's there.
Okay.
Yeah, I can work with what I'm given. Managing money and saving money are two different things. Especially with this economy, it's kind of hard to do that nowadays. But I will say, just with the past education that I've received in accounting, the past experience, it's become better over time. Like, I'm more intentional about my spending. I'll go out my way to create budgets. I'll go out of my way to list my bills before I even get them, before I even receive them. I want to estimate what we're going to be spending, what we're working with, so we know how much spending money. Especially with kids, you have to be more intentional with that because of the random expenses that may come up. Then your kids are like, hey, I want McDonald's after school. I want Chick-fil-A. And although our parents would ask, do you have McDonald's money? We don't want to set that precedent for our kids nowadays, do we?
Yes.
I don't know, my kids are kind of vocal. But,
we got McDonald's at the house.
But sometimes, I mean, the schools feed these kids super early. The kids are moving. The snacks aren't enough sometimes. So I have to just set aside, after school eating right before dinner. This is just how my household functions. I don't want no smoke with nobody. This is just how we get by some days.
So, okay, let's talk about it then. Let's go into how is it to balance life. You have school, director of accounting, mom, fiance, daughter, granddaughter, sister. You have a number of hats that you wear. How do you balance these hats?
You see how I am in the office? I'm psychotic. I'm all over the place sometimes. Look, everyone has their days. Everyone falls short sometimes. But I definitely try to make sure that everyone is taken care of before I can take care of myself. I try to make sure that the girls are good on a day-to-day basis. Try to make sure Dexter is good on a day-to-day. Try to make sure my team is good.
Yes.
Like, before I even get started, I want to know, hey, do y'all need anything from me on today? Or let me know throughout the day, because you get so busy and emails go unread and phone calls don't get returned. But hey, I'm only human.
Right.
I can only do so much, but I do pride myself on trying to do the best I can in everything I do. Right. Like you're aware, I don't go to sleep. I don't naturally fall asleep, get into bed, say, hey, it's 8 p.m., I'm going to rest my eyes.
Listen, I am a 8 p.m. girl, okay? 9 times out of 10, you call or text me, I'm in the bed rubbing these feet together, and it's time to call it a night. There has been times where Essence comes in the office, and she rubbing her eyes, she looking crazy, and we're like, what time did you go to bed? And she like, I didn't go to bed till 2 in the morning. I'm like, ooh, why would you do that?
But that's just how I function. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like my purpose here on the world is to make the most out of my 24 hours.
I love that. Because I'm not doing that.
I feel like I really need to use those 24 hours to my advantage. So if I have to only sleep for 4 hours because I have so much to get done, that's just how my brain works. Wow. That means I can sleep okay for those 4 hours. I don't have to, because sometimes if I have things to do and I feel like my agenda and my calendar is filled, I will dream solutions. I will seriously come up, brainstorm in my sleep. And it's so crazy.
You making me feel bad, because
that's just how I work. Because most nights I fall asleep with my laptop open. If my laptop not open, then my iPad is open.
Wow.
Which is insane. Like, even last night, Dexter said, close your laptop. It was 12 a.m.
Yeah.
And I was asleep with my laptop open.
How do you do taking days off, taking time off? Do you ever get to a point where you look, I need some time, I need a few days, I can't come into the office, I need PTO?
I think I'll have those moments twice a year.
Yeah.
Where it's I take PTO and it's real working today.
Yes.
No emails are being checked.
Yeah.
No Slack messages are being returned. That probably occurs twice a year where it's like consecutive days.
Yeah.
You know, I'll take like runoff days. I might take a Friday.
Yeah.
Might take a random Wednesday.
Yeah. But you're still answering calls. Did you do this? Did you do this? Like, what you need help
But
with?
I'm getting better. You don't agree? I feel like I'm getting better because I need to start setting boundaries for work and for family. Being more strict with where those
and we
lines
tell you
cross.
that all the time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a work in progress, and I think I'm trusting you guys more, and I feel completely like you guys can just run the ship without me.
Yes.
If I take a week off, you guys got it. But I want to be a listening ear just in case you guys need me. I want to be available at all times just in case anything happens. Because I don't know, I feel like when I was in your position and my manager would take off, it kind of made me feel better. Like, if I call her on PTO, she's going to answer.
Yeah.
Just in case things go bad.
Right.
Like,
right.
And you can't ask nobody but me
Yeah.
for help.
You're right.
So I kind of like being that safety net.
Yeah.
But then again, I do need to create clear boundaries and take more PTO to make sure that I'm the best when I do return and not grouchy or tired.
Yes.
And I want to be productive all the time.
Yes.
So I think that's a work in progress that I'm still fighting within myself. But it just might be a personality or a character thing for me. I am an August Leo, and we do the most. We do the most, and we're going to always want to be our best at everything. So it's something that I'm trying to work on within myself. But I think I'm getting there. I think I'm in a better place now than I was a year ago.
I can agree with that.
Yeah,
I can definitely agree with that. So, what is some advice you can give us young Black women working in corporate America? You're in the office, and like you said, you may have some times where our Caucasian friends are throwing those punches, and you don't know how to respond because it's taken me some time
to acclimate,
to learn corporate America. Like, going into it, she definitely told me, come in, do your job, mind your business. Don't bring personal into work, leave personal outside and just do your job. So she definitely told me that. But then, now that I am 2 years in, I have come across, sometimes where it's like, you want to respond, but you like, you don't want to give off the...
I think those are two different battles. Like, you have to think about, hey, what if someone offends me? And then you have to think about, hey, if I mind my business, everything is smooth sailing. Because those are two different demons that you're trying to fight. Because the moment that you don't mind your business, and the moment that you do get involved in something that has nothing to do with you, it becomes high school all over again.
Yes, this is true.
And it doesn't really matter the ages. I mean, you can have coworkers from the age of 18 to the age of 72.
Correct.
Like, any age gets involved in gossip. Any age gets involved in drama. But I think it becomes a problem when it's mostly women.
Yes.
And they don't mind their business.
Yes. And like you said, I definitely want to say, for anyone, a Black African American woman working in corporate America, set boundaries.
Yeah.
Please set boundaries. Personal life does not come to work. Don't be freely to share your business at work. Once you cross the line of coworker and friends, lines are blurred and things happen. So I definitely have, that's a lesson learned for me, setting boundaries. And like you said, just doing your work, minding your business, doing your work. That's one thing you have very much so instilled into our accounting team. If you do your work, no one can say anything to you or anything about you. They have nothing bad to say because you mind your business and you do your work.
Absolutely.
So, work hard and mind your business.
Yeah.
I
think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Especially when you're working with a smaller company. Yeah. I feel like things like that are more likely to happen or more common to happen, and they know like the root of the issue when you're with a smaller company.
Yeah.
When you're at like a larger company, it's like 1,000 of you guys
Right.
within the company. It's like, yeah, there was gossip, but do we know where it came from?
Right.
Maybe not, because maybe 20 people started the rumor.
Yeah, a bunch of he say, she say, so you know, you never know. So,
yeah. I do find more comfort in working for a smaller company.
I can agree. I think it's very more so we have a family-oriented office, I will say. It's very, I think now I believe, not now for our company, but now overall with corporate, I think a lot of companies are starting to step more into the diversity, equality, inclusive, environment. They're trying to make sure everyone is, involved, feel welcomed, and, and is diverse. Yeah. So I do think now for corporate, a lot has changed in the corporate world. A lot still is changing in the corporate world. So, yeah, I
think they're trying to make sure that they take care of all their employees, no matter the way of life or no matter the foundation or where that person comes from.
Right.
Because they're probably trying to limit who's being offended. And because I think maybe the LGBTQIA+, I believe I included everyone in there. I kind of think that they laid a foundation. She might have added a letter. No, they add letters every so often.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I missed it.
But yeah, I think that they probably laid a lot of the foundation for corporations wanting to make sure that they're not offending their employees, to make sure everyone feels valued and included, no matter like their sexual orientation or their race or their culture.
Right.
But I also will make a point that because we spend most of our time, people don't realize that, we spend most of our time at work than we do with our families.
Yes.
Which is so sad.
It is.
But so true. So, and a lot of times you have to, sometimes people feel forced to foster these relationships in the workplace. And then some people, like you, feel conflicted because you want to make sure that you have those boundaries in place with your coworkers. And then other people are like, hey, I'm here all day.
Yeah.
Let me make the most of it.
Yeah.
Maybe trust 1 out of 50 people here.
Right.
Let me at least make one friend.
Right.
So I don't feel like I'm having or I'm drained when I leave here.
Yeah.
Because I do spend most of my life
at work.
Work, seeing you guys more than my family.
Yeah.
So that's why what I like about our job or our place of work is that we have fostered that family environment where, hey, I am pretty close with most of the people that I work for. Like their numbers are saved on my phone.
Right.
Even though we may not share things on social media, I think that could be like a clear line, a boundary, like not sharing social media. If you're one of the girls that don't want to cross that line, making sure that hey, you don't add them. But when you see them at work, it's always like a good time. Like some would say, work friend.
Right.
Yeah, and I think we just have to make the most out of it. Like, what are we going to come to work miserable?
You eventually get miserable, and you eventually are unhappy. Like you say, you spend the majority of your time at work, not seeing family, not having vacation days. So you eventually do get miserable. So
corporate America, they probably have like set vacation days. Like even my previous employer, where we get like 16 days. That's like a floating holiday. That's sick time, and that's vacation time. That's 16 days in a year, excluding your weekends. Yeah. If you have the privilege to not work weekends, some people don't even have that privilege.
Right.
So you have to think about that too. Like maybe that's feeding into like the unhappiness in the workplace because they don't have time to like be away from the workplace. We have that luxury of having unlimited PTO by the grace of God because He's always good.
Amen.
But then you still have some that don't really take advantage of it.
Right.
I won't say names.
Sitting here in a dress.
Don't take advantage of it
and
make me unhappy, but luckily I haven't gotten to that place. I don't think I will because I still know how to make the most of what I'm given.
Right.
And I'm definitely forever grateful for what I do have. Thanks to God. to do a better job of making sure that their employees stay happy, because that affects their work product also.
Right.
Like if I'm exhausted, if I'm unhappy with where I am because of the culture, am I going to produce the work that I once did before?
Right.
Probably not.
No. Yeah.
Because it's not really giving. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. I have a question. Do you have a legacy in mind for your children? What do you want your kids to remember about you?
Okay. Legacy in mind. Let's start with that one. I want my legacy, or I at least want my kids and my grandkids to know and to remember me by being a hard worker. And being a provider for them. And I want to be affectionate. I want them to remember me as loving. Not a pushover, but loving.
Okay.
And definitely, I think my number one thing to instill in them is hard work. Because in this life, Lord, this world will just spit you out. She will can spit you out so easily if you're not prepared for it. And that's something I don't think that our kids are prepared for.
Right.
I feel like our generation was better prepared for it than the next.
I think it stopped in our generation.
It did
for sure.
stop. Because I would say even like after us, even like our little brothers, their generation is probably.
They don't work hard at all. So.
They're kind of doomed, for lack of better words.
Pretty much.
But laying that foundation in our kids, because the schools aren't really doing that.
Right.
And we don't have like programs in place that really does that.
So true.
Anymore, you want to make sure that your kids know that you need to work hard to get anywhere that you want to get in life, because nothing is given to you.
Exactly.
Ever.
Exactly.
And nothing is free.
Exactly.
Something always comes with the price.
Okay. Exactly.
So I definitely want to make sure that that's instilled in them. And I even joked today when the kids asked me about school. I'm like, when you go to college, mommy's going to go with you. Yeah, I always joke and say that. And Nick says, you're psychotic. But I kind of want to motivate them. Hey, you can go to college. It can be fun. But then you have some kids that don't want to go to college. But what does that look like for that generation?
Right.
Because for us, hey, a high school diploma may have meant something. It can get you like an entry-level job.
Yeah.
But that's not the case in the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, is that
technology and AI is taking over
everything. So what is going to be like that requirement for that entry-level role 20 years from now? Not because you don't know how long college is going to be here.
Right.
But at least trying to prepare them for something.
Yeah.
So they don't fall by the wayside.
Right. Agreed.
And then what was the other question? I'm sorry.
That was it for that one.
Okay.
Okay. So, last question. What is next for you? Do you feel like you are accomplished where you are now, or you're not satisfied? You going after something else?
I think I found my calling. I think accounting is my calling, but it's always more to learn within accounting. You have tax laws that change every year. I mean, you have so many different job positions within the role of accounting, where you can just navigate a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like, I actually like the thought, because I'm so into forensic science, forensic accounting. Like, I just like auditing. I'm really into auditing, forensic accounting right now. And that's something that I see myself diving into more deeply, specifically auditing. I like to comb through numbers, try to figure out the missing information, the missing data. So that's what I can see for myself, maybe within the next 3 to 5 years, trying to get more into auditing data. But yeah, I think I found my true calling. I don't think I'll go back to school after this. I think I'm quite content with not going back to school.
You have got your bachelor's, you are getting your master's.
Yeah, I had some good steam. When you go into something, you're like, ooh, I'm so excited. Let's get into this. We're going to, really breeze through this. But when you come into it, when you get deep into that thing, it gets real. When you get into that nitty gritty, it does get real. It becomes super time consuming. Now that I'm wrapping up school, I'm starting to take those CPA exams, and that's every section of the CPA exam is 4 hours.
Wow.
So it's definitely a lot of studying, because accounting it's just a lot of math, and you have to really be detail oriented.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really think about that. I think when I went into the field, I kind of like generalized the field of accounting,
Right.
because you don't really know what you're going into until you're into it.
Yes.
But I will say it's probably one of the best decisions that I've ever made for myself and for my family, and I'm looking forward to where it takes me.
I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I have really, really, really enjoyed this conversation with you. I hope you guys took something away from this tonight. If you are in the corporate world, keep pushing. Keep pushing. The sky is the limit, you know. Keep pushing. With that being said, thank you guys for tuning in tonight with Talks with Brittany. I am your host, Brittany Justice, and this is Essence Nicholson.
Thank you guys.
Catch us next Thursday at 7 p.m. Good night.